Pop's Daylight Donuts. Man, they've got the best tasting donuts, sausage wraps, pastries in Northeast Oklahoma. And also, if you'll tell the staff there, hey, Scott Townsend said to give me a large spicy pig, they'll give you a free large spicy sausage wrap. But you have to tell them Scott Townsend sent you. So tell them, hey, Scott Townsend told me to tell you to give me a large spicy pig. So there's the offer. There's the call to action. So go to Pop's Daylight Donuts. Say hi to Mark for me. And yeah, go to Pop's Daylight Donuts and get you some. The other sponsor is Castifly Outdoor Adventures.
Adventure. That's where it begins. We look to create and document our moments in time while embracing the majestic wonder and beauty of the great outdoors. Our quest is to explore the back roads of the Ozarks, camping, fishing, and just getting lost. Refresh your spirit and join us on our next adventure.
Paul and his crew invite you to subscribe to the Castifly Outdoor Adventures YouTube channel.
Welcome to the Scott Townsend Show, brought to you by Dietzo Man Productions.
Hey, this is Scott Townsend. Thanks for joining the Scott Townsend Show. And today I have with me Brian Gregory. He's the CEO and founder of ADMANITY.com. Brian, how's it going?
Scott, it is going great. I'm excited to be here, and I'm looking forward to having a great show.
Yeah. So this is a really interesting. We're going to get all emotional today. So everybody just buckle your seatbelt. We're going to get all emotional about advertising and marketing, and Brian's going to walk us through what that all means. So you guys, your business is reaching out to small businesses, or any business really, coming online. You've created this algorithm that helps people understand some of the emotional. Well, I'm going to let you explain it. Go ahead, and I'll turn it over to you, Brian.
Well, the simple explanation for, what is ADMANITY? We're a new company, so if you haven't heard about us, I hope you will. But what we've done is we've created an algorithm that can analyze any business. Usually we're dealing with small businesses, but it would work with Apple computers if you owned that.
Right.
But any business can take a 5-minute online test, and it will analyze the brand from a different angle. Most of us are looking at our brands very non-emotionally. We look at it very factually. And so when we create advertising and messaging, we tend to overcomplicate it, and it doesn't seem to work very well. So ADMANITY does, what we do is we can show any brand how it emotionally to connect with its audience, like what emotions will work with your brand, not in general, but with your specific brand. What do you need to put into the marketplace to make another human being say, hey, I want that? And it's a tactic and a technique that most small businesses would never, ever be able to afford, because before this, you'd have to hire an expensive ad agency to create those kinds of agency level tactics and strategies. Now, in less than 5 minutes, any business on the planet Earth can get all the best strategies and tactics for their brand, almost, like I said, in 5 minutes or less. So it's quite a breakthrough, and we're excited to share it with you today.
So let's talk about emotions. There's the what is it, 15 primal emotions or something like that you guys dig into? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, what we did is we've analyzed so many ads from the past, and the best things to study are the ads that really worked well, not just kind of good or they were funny, but the ads that really changed the game for the companies behind them. And you study the ads that actually worked really, really well. And what we found out was, as we studied ad after ad after ad, thousands of ads, the same emotions kept popping up. Like, why did this ad work? Well, these same emotions kept coming up. So we narrowed it down to there's 15 primal emotions, basic emotions that we all have, like happiness and fear and things like that have sold everything on the planet Earth for as long as you can go back and research it. So these 15 primal emotions are the emotions most likely to create a sale for your product if you only knew how to string them together. What is the formula? Because obviously with 15 different elements, you could have over 1 billion possible combinations. And so it becomes, the algorithm has to step in at this point and say, yes, but these are the ones that are working in advertising. So just use these. And that's what it does.
So out of the 15, it gives you maybe 1 to 4 or the top 3 emotions that you should focus on?
A lot more than that,
Okay.
because you have probably more than 3 or 4 reasons to use these formulas.
Right.
So it all breaks down to a formula. Everything in advertising is a formula. It may be very creatively done at the end of the day by whoever touches the ad and makes it a piece of creative. But at the base of the creative, at the base of all advertising, there are simple structured formulas. We call it 1 + 2 = 3. So one emotion plus another emotion is going to equal the effect you want to get, the purchase or the desire to buy your product. So we give you 16 different formulas, 16 different 1 + 2 = 3s, because you might want to use one on your social media and maybe a different one for radio and another one for a door hanger and your website and your emails and your funnels and your ads and if you do TV, there's another one. So we don't tell you which ones to use for each of those media because they're all usable. They all will get your brand to the same place. 16 different roads, all leading to the purchase of your brand.
Can you give us an idea? What's when you think of using emotions to a brand that's been very successful in using an emotion to sell something? Is there a company in mind that you think of when you talk about that? Are there some examples of right on the money, emotional, tug at the heartstrings, whatever?
Yeah, it's amazing how simple they are. It's one of the comments people make when they get their results from us, is they realize, wow, this stuff is really simple. Why didn't I think of that? Well, it's because there's over 1 billion combinations and you wouldn't think of that and you weren't trained to think of that. But I'll give you one that everybody will recognize right off the bat. Geico. Let's just talk about car insurance for a second. Something nobody really wants, and yet everybody has to have these days. And they know that. They know you don't want car insurance. They know that you're not excited to purchase it, but they have to get you to buy it anyway. So what they did, and by the way, Geico was once a struggling company that you've never heard about. Now it's the number 2 insurer in the United States for cars. And so they combine, for example, affinity, which is happiness or fun or humor in this case, with ambition. Those are 2 of our archetypes, affinity and ambition. Ambition is greed or a value, a good deal, a savings. So they say 15 minutes could save you 15%, right? And they make you laugh. And then they throw in, hey, but you could also save some money. So they combine humor and a little savings. And how do you not like that? You made me laugh and you saved me money. I like this company. I'll buy some. And it's worked very, very well for them. And now you see all the other companies are copying their tactics.
I'm looking at a cute little lizard or whatever that is.
Yeah, it's actually a funny story. The lizard was actually created during the actors' strike. When they first wanted to do the commercials, they wanted to hire live actors. They had to create the lizard because they were not allowed to hire actors back then because of the strike. So they created a lizard who will live forever because he doesn't age.
What a great pivot story. That's awesome.
Yeah.
How can a small business advertise just like a big brand, and why should they?
Great question. A lot of people, especially in small business, think, oh, I'm small. I can't do like the big guys do. Yeah, they have the budget, they have the distribution, they have all the advantages, and I'm just a little guy. And the answer is because the big brands understand their archetype. They understand their formulas. They know it works on human beings. This is what advertising is all about, the gentle persuasion of another human being. And they understand it because all humans are essentially wired very similarly. I always say, you know, we're all unique like snowflakes, but when selling, sell to the snow. And so they understand that. And so the same human being that's watching the Geico commercial is sitting on their couch. It's the same human, the same brain, the same mood they're in. Your commercial comes on next. It should pattern itself after what has been proven to work. And the place where you find most of the proof is in the big brands. They've spent millions, billions of dollars to find out what works. Why don't you just copy it? It's the same formula. It's the same, it'll have the same effect. You just have to taper down the cost, right? You can't afford a $500,000 commercial, but you could certainly afford a print ad or something on the web. Just use the same emotion. So we show you the formulas. You can create anything you want with it.
So that's how they're doing it. And a lot of people are doing it incorrectly. Is they're not focusing on the emotion. They're probably more concerned with selling the chair and not selling the comfort or the, they're not tying into the emotion behind a comfortable chair. What does that mean?
Yeah, it's, you have two states of mind. We all have a conscious brain, cognitive brain, the rational facts, Sherlock Holmes brain that we all like to think we possess. And you have the subconscious mind, the irrational, the emotional, and it happens to be the brain that makes all of your purchase decisions. So this is the brain we want to talk to. We want to talk to the subconscious mind because it has the credit cards, okay? That's where the money is. There's no money talking to the conscious mind. The conscious mind just says no, or I'll think about it. It hasn't bought anything in its entire existence, and it never will. So most of us are small business owners. We sit down, we're going to make a little ad, and we're going to create something because the magazine guy called and said the ad's due tomorrow. And we start thinking of all the facts and the rational things about our business that make so much sense to us because we're preoccupied with it. And that's what goes in our ad. I do this, we have that, we make this thing, we guarantee it this way. All the customer wants to know is, does it come in blue? And so we oversell the facts, which should come after the sale. And we undersell the real reason why a human might desire this product. And we forget that we are emotional beings. 95% of your brain is subconscious activity. So what ADMANITY teaches you is the tactics that appeal to the subconscious mind so that it just happens like that. They don't think about buying the product. It triggers an urge to buy the product.
And having been in marketing for so long, I'm thinking of this podcast here and how I think I might have missed the boat on tapping into the emotion of why someone should listen or watch rather than going into all the facts and data on why. I need to really think about that now, because what emotion do I want to, I'm just thinking about what you just said and trying to tie it back to what I'm doing here. I need to come up with an emotion that people, go ahead.
This is the interesting thing. What's just happened to you happens to all of us. If I told you, sit down and think of the emotions that make your brand sell, right away, your mind goes into this dither, right? And then which emotions, how do I combine it? Well, I don't even, it's kind of a foreign language in a way. And so that's why we had to come up with the test. Nobody can do this. The algorithm is so complicated. It took us 7 years to create this product so you can have a 5-minute answer. So what you would do is the easier way, the far easier way, is just go to admanity.com, take our 5-minute test. The entire procedure costs $397, comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So nobody will get anything they don't want. And you take the 5-minute test, and what you'll get back is an analysis of your brand so exact it may scare you a little because it's going to be right on the money. It'll analyze your brand like you've never heard it analyzed before. And we give you the formulas, so you don't have to think about this ever again. You just follow 1 + 2 = 3. If you can do that, you can do ADMANITY, and we'll give you all the formulas, not only for selling customers, that's very important. How about upselling? That's a different formula. How about winning back a lost customer? That's a different formula, but we give you those too. How about all the words, the phrases, the metaphors? You should know all those because you're going to have to write an ad. You're going to have to write emails. You're going to have to write a website. You're going to have to do social media.
Copywriting.
Yeah. So we give you all the copywriting that matches your brand. We give you the colors that would match your emotional archetype. We give you so much in this report. It's 150 pages of all about you. It's the most interesting thing you'll read all day because it's all about your brand.
So what would happen if every business in America had an ADMANITY report?
That's a great question. I hope someday we find out.
Yeah.
Because, ADMANITY would obviously be very successful. But this is my philosophy, and one of the reasons why we started the company. ADMANITY is a combination of advertising and the words humanity. So we're about advertising, but we're also about humanity, and we combine it. We want to help small business because they don't have these answers and they need them right now.
Mm-hmm.
If every business could be given an ADMANITY report, I think one thing that would go away is this awful statistic: 80% of all small businesses fail, right? I mean, what if somebody said 80% of all the things you ever will invest in will fail? You'd never invest again.
Right.
So I think right away, if every business started out with the right formulas for their brand, instead of messing around, making all the mistakes, wasting a ton of money, years of bad ads being run to find maybe some little fragment of an ad that works for them, right? If they just started out with the right answers, the right formulas, the right words, the right colors, everything, boom, day one, a lot fewer businesses would fail, because businesses don't fail because their product is bad or their employees are no good or the government's taxing them too much or the wrong guy's the president this week. That's not why businesses fail. They fail because their message, whatever it was not heard above the noise.
Mm-hmm.
They just lived beneath the threshold their entire existence until one day everyone forgot who they were and they didn't make enough money and they didn't sell enough product. But if you get your message correctly, it cuts through the noise, it goes above the line, and all of a sudden people start hearing you and, more importantly, remembering your brand name. They'll call you next time. And that business, and those are the 20%. So I'm just saying, look, we know how to get to the 20%. We have the formulas. We'll share them all with you. You might as well get them.
So, man, I really appreciate your time and your generosity, sharing your expertise about ADMANITY. So if someone wanted more information, you mentioned it a while ago, but where would I go if I want more information or I want to sign up for my small business and use ADMANITY's protocol?
Well, if you want to get started, just go to admanity.com and obviously I'm sure you'll put a link to that, and that's easy. And that's for people who are ready to go right now. We also have a special sort of introduction to ADMANITY for your listeners today. If you go to admanity.com/Townsend, just like the show name, admanity.com/Townsend, you will get a free 20-page report that we'll email to you all about this emotional marketing. And we'll show you some of the big companies that have done it and how they did it. We'll show you all 15 of the emotions that sell everything in the world. We'll share some of our philosophies and strategies with you, and you'll learn a lot more. Just reading this 20-page report will change the way you think of your business, and it's absolutely free with no obligation. So either of those two options, I think, are great ways to start for your readers or listeners. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh no, that's great. That's totally awesome. I really appreciate that. So yeah, if you're listening, watching, I highly suggest if you're a small business, medium size, large, whatever, go to admanity.com, check in with Brian Gregory here and get your report, or go to the admanity.com/Townsend to get your free 20-page report, kind of an intro into what's going on here, and help get your business tap into the emotions. One of the businesses I think about emotions is Disney calls them the happiest place on earth. I mean, they tap into that on their tagline. And so many other businesses, if you think about it, do that very thing. So I'm thinking about it for myself now. What do I want people to think about when they watch or listen to this show? So I really appreciate you. Here, I thought I was doing a pretty good job, and now Brian's got me all thinking different now.
Well, you're about to have a renaissance for your brand, and when you start doing the things that the let's just say most of the big brands already know, and they're not really going to share it with you. When you start tapping in to that higher level of what really works, your business life will become much easier, much more fun.
Well, Brian, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for your time. I'm up against the clock here. So I hope you have a great day, rest of your weekend, and good luck to all you guys at ADMANITY.
Thank you, Scott. It's been a pleasure.
So for Brian Gregory, this is Scott Townsend. Thanks for joining the Scott Townsend Show. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you later.
The Scott Townsend Show is a Deetso Man production. For more episodes, visit the Scott Townsend Show YouTube channel, listen on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.
Scott Townsend Show.